Good evening. This is Tuesday, February 10th, 2022, a meeting of the Town Government Structure and Administration, TGS&A meeting. It detected a presence of a quorum. Joe Michelli and Gail Holt, David York, Harry McLaughlin, and Will Cusack. As such, we will follow the agenda, which has been published. As a matter of fact, I have a guest, Krista McNamara, the town clerk. I'm very glad that she joined us this evening. Meeting is being moderated by Channel 79's stellar representative, Alyssa Diamond. Thank you, Alyssa. I'm going to pop up the agenda for this evening, I think. There we are. And the first order of business is to review the minutes from the regular and approve the minutes from our regular meeting of January 18th. These are distributed as part of the package. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, raise their hands.
My hand's
Thank
raised.
you, it's unanimous. Very good. Yes, yeah, David will ask for your voice vote from time to time. Glad you're here.
Sure.
The second item in this special meeting of TGS&A is to review a proposed resolution from the registrars of voters concerning adjustment to the boundaries of the RTM districts as prompted by the state Senate and House redistricting of census of 2020. This topic will be taken up by the Rules Committee on Monday night, and as such, this committee's comments and potential recommendations will be entertained at the Rules Committee meeting. We have the benefits of working with the registrars of voters and their briefing of this committee back on January 18th. At that time, we saw a chart of the districts within Darien as they exist right now. They are from 1 to 6, but there are actually 2 districts in District 4, 4 and 4.01. The issues are caused by the fact that the House redistricting by the state has cut Darien, had 2 districts within Darien. One shown in green here is Darien and part of Rowayton, and part of Norwalk, Rowayton. And then in pink at the top of the chart, the New Canaan and Darien, which cuts into our District 1. Well, different than that is the Senate districts, which are shown on the screen at the moment. At the bottom in gray is district number 27, which lapses over from Sanford. District 25, which lapses over from Norwalk and Westport. And then just Norwalk, excuse me. And then District 26, which is shown in white, which starts in Westport, extends north, cuts a sliver of New Canaan, shaves off the top of Darien, and winds up over in Stamford. The unfortunate situation is that by one cut by House and another cut by Senate, we wind up with our District 1 being diced into 4 sections, sub-districts. It's quite often called precincts. So this chart shows the top of Darien. Let's start over with District 3. We'll be in Senate District 26, House District 141. As we move into the 4 sections of District 1, we have a 26-141, we have 26-125, another 25-125, and a 25-141. If you look closely, there are 4 different ballots, 4 different, a person living in a registered voter in any one of these districts could have one of those 4 combinations. This has created, will create quite a lot of administrative problems and just logistical problems for our registrars of voters. We are not unique. There are other communities around the state that have been inconvenienced by this setup. But the registrars of voters have come up with a way of dealing with it. With reference to this chart, which is distributed in the agenda, we have our 7 districts, which is 1 through 6 with little 4.1 there. The total of registered voters as of January 1st, 2022 was 15,072. That number will change from month to month as people move away and arrive and register. So every month that number will be different. But we've been using January 1st as a frame of reference in these discussions. Next column is where these districts vote, and then the jumping over is what Senate district they're in, what House district they're in. I've got a labeling problem. The House and Senate districts that they're in. When you break down our District 1 into its 4 components, you see that they're charted out there, and we begin to puzzle over this and say, how can this be simplified? Well, the proposal on the table is that if Little District 401, with approximately 173 voters, is moved into District 5, the district, our House and Senate districts will coincide. Similarly, if part of District 1 is moved into District 3, which only involves 118 voters as of our reference point, January 1st, then there's one fewer precinct in District 1, and District 3 picks up one of those precincts. The RTM, the moderator of the RTM received a note on January 27th after our briefing describing the change and requesting that the RTM take up this issue. Subsequent to that, the representative registrars of voters and Krista in her role as town clerk to specify this more carefully and bring a resolution for our consideration. As such, today, would like to bring up something else on the screen here. We received a very nice package, which had been reviewed by Town Council Fox, which we have for our consideration. I've got this on the screen, and it was sent out mid-afternoon for our review. The first item is a very thorough memo from registrars of voters describing the problem, and then describing their proposed solution, which is having Little District 401 being absorbed into R5, and one of those precincts up in District 1 being absorbed by District 3. This is spelled out very carefully in this memo, specifying what streets are involved. When the registrar of voters moves someone moves the boundaries of the districts in town, unfortunately, they have to do this house by house, household by household, street address by street address, and so that their books are properly prepared. They attached essentially the same diagram we were looking at earlier, which shows that, I hope that you can see my cursor bouncing around, the Little District on one of the 3 districts up on District 1 being absorbed by 3, and then down here 4.01 being absorbed by 5. In conclusion of their memo, there's a resolution that has been drafted and reviewed by Wayne Fox that could come before the RT, could come before rules and then be posted on the agenda for the RTM meeting on the 28th. It accomplishes what we just described. At the bottom of the memo, there are two interesting paragraphs, which are pretty, I believe, word for word from the last time this was done in 2012, the 10-year census. So the town went through this 10 years ago. And out of caution that members of the RTM who would find themselves in one district one day and then another district, another election, this describes how a member of the RTM would transfer from one district to the other and be able to be, if they wanted to run for re-election, not be treated as a new member of the district, but instead have the 25 candidates that they had, 25 registered voters on their petition. I'm going to go on mute for a second to see what this phone call is. Hold on.
If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to try to jump in, answer while we're waiting for Frank.
So we're not considering 3 districts anymore, right? We're just gonna make some nice little changes. Sounds
Right
like.
now, this is not considered, we'll say, the master plan that is, I suppose, still for the future.
That phone call was from our friend Ken Fiveson, who will join us momentarily. He had adjourned from another meeting, and I'm very glad that he will join us. So as a result, we have on our agenda as item 2 the consideration of this proposal, which is open for discussion at the moment. And I'm glad that Krista is here to answer any questions that are the tough ones. I can handle the easy ones.
You can continue, Krista, about answering my question. You were saying something? I had asked if this is different than the other.
I'm sorry, was that a question for Krista? Because she's on mute.
I know. We had talked while you were on the phone, and I had asked her, is this taking a place of that original idea, which was the turning into maybe 3 districts, or there was some other idea for that? And I'm wondering, is this going to take that over?
And I was just saying that the idea of a master plan as to what works best for the electors and the voting process, this is a step in the right direction, I would say. But time will determine if this is the final answer. If that's fair.
Okay.
Other questions that we might address? Joe, you're muted, so unmute yourself and ask us.
Okay. Kristen, is there any way to know if an RTM member is in one of these little pits is going to be pushed into another district?
Yes, Frank, I think that's the streets are addressed in the supporting documents. You could scroll to where it shows that, Frank?
Joe, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question, Joe?
Wants to know what streets are going to be affected, so our team members know what they're going to be moved. The streets are in the memo. As it stands currently, Joe, we've identified two RTM members.
Oh, two. So they'll just, what happens to them?
They will continue.
They be still on RTM?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What district will they be representing?
They will stay in their current district until their term is up. I think we say it here. And further resolved, there will be no changes in the terms of any RTM members. Incumbents will continue to serve the term to which they've been elected and represent the district in which they reside. So at their next election, they'll just be on the ballot for the new district.
Okay. So nobody gets affected? No members? Not this time?
Well, when we have the next election,
Right. Then they'll be
they
affected.
running on the ballot in the district to which they then live.
Right.
No one is being bumped out
Okay.
by this. And I mean, this is a process of moving districts. When I was on the RTM in 2011, I was on Leroy Avenue, and 1 minute I was in District 1 and the next day I was in District 6 because Tom Dunn redrew the lines. So it is not without precedent, actually.
Well, we should recognize it a little disconcerting to the average voter, the typical voter, to find that they're voting in a different place. But in these times, that is a problem that can be addressed by articles in the newspaper, postcards, notices on the web page, and a variety of ways. It does, in this case, affect just a few hundred people, a few hundred problems, but it does leave the rest of the town intact. By the way, I was just talking to Ken Fiveson. I expected that he would come in, but I'll give him another call in just a moment. Are there any other questions? In that case, can I entertain a motion to approve the resolution proposed by the Registrar of Voters to adjust the RTM district boundaries for 1 and 3 and 4 and 5 in response to changes in the state, Senate, and House districts within the town? Would someone move that?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, Frank, David.
Thank you. Now that motion has been proposed and seconded, is there any further discussion of the topic? In that case, I would like to call for a vote. All those in favor, raise their hand or sound off.
Aye, in favour.
Thank you.
Aye.
And Gail, I can't quite see you. Are you up? Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Harry, you're off the screen at the moment.
He said.
Oh, I
he
see.
said-
Aye.
There he is. Okay. All right, then I would fair to say it's unanimous, and certainly thank you for your consideration of this important measure. Krista, you are certainly welcome to join us for this next discussion. I think it's interesting, and if you can hang in there, we'll have a
Absolutely.
little discussion. The next topic number 2.
Stick around.
Excuse me, Frank, have you got a quorum if I have to leave?
Excuse me?
Frank, it's David. Have you still got a quorum now? If I have to leave, my daughter's just messaged me and needs to be collected.
Yes, well, we have 6. I had hoped that we would have 7 if Ken joined us.
I'm only counting 5 if he leaves.
All right.
Okay.
Item number 2, our second item, is, as it says on the agenda, discuss and vote on a report to Rules Committee concerning the efforts to remove gender-specific text in the town charter and code of ordinances. If this committee determines that the working draft of these changes is sufficiently complete, the committee may recommend to the next Rules Committee meeting on Monday, the 14th, that the proposed changes reviewed by town council and reviewed at a public hearing. The public hearing must be completed 60 days prior to having the issue scheduled for consideration by the RTM. Note that in contrast to the vote that was just taken to recommend to the rules that they take action on a particular item, this is forwarding our vote. If we vote on this, it would be in favor of forwarding a report to rules. In support of that effort, I distributed a little package, which is draft, and it's titled, "For Members of the Rules Committee of the RTM, Progress and Background, or Project to Remove References to Gender from the Town Charter Code of Ordinance." Rules asked us to look at it. We've looked at it, and we're sending it back to Rules. So we would like to do that on Monday night per discussion that will take place now. Attached to this package, which may be distributed, may be kind of edited, because this was a draft that was sent out, but this package could go up to Rules for Monday night. It consists of several documents. One is a transmittal note. The second is a reminder of what the resolution is we're working on. We're working in response to resolution number 2118, which was approved back in June of last year. Another page is a general backgrounder on what general gender neutral language is generally accepted to be. There's a couple of pages of Q&A, questions and answers of typical questions that we believe will be asked or have been asked so far of this. And then finally, the 50-page report, which has been carefully edited by members of this committee over the last couple of weeks. They can't believe the excellent quality of editing and carefulness of which people have worked this thing over. There's such a, it's really something. Anyway, this package is ready to go, given a couple of little tweaks, up to Rules. Given the fact that the 50-page report is not frozen at the moment, because even Wayne Fox took a good look at all 50 pages and has his own interlinear red line comments. I didn't get a copy of it today when I talked to him, but he said he will send it. When I receive it, I will circulate it to the committee, and one can assume if there are minor changes made by town council that they're pretty good. So we can entertain those and blend them in to the report, which is, I hate it when somebody says this is a dynamic document. Well, we don't have a dynamic document. We have a very carefully worded document, but there may be minor changes to it as it wends its way to the public hearing, through the public hearing, and during the 60 days after the public hearing is opportunity to make improvements to the document. Well, with that as a run-up, does anyone have questions concerning this project? And discuss it a little, Harry, you could go first. Your edits were thorough and extensive and very appreciated. What were your impressions as you worked your way through it?
Just that there were things that get out of date, and apart from the gender thing, that there's glitches that were there from the beginning and probably didn't matter, so they survived. But maybe we can clean up a few.
Harry identified a duplication, an apparent duplication in the last section, the town sanitarian section. And it were tempted to strike the one half of the duplication. Then he also discovered within the police retirement system, the original text, which was written in the 1970s, had several paragraphs devoted to the treatment of members of the police force who were members of the prior retirement system, and describing their transfer and what the recognition of. In that was 50 years old, Harry suggested that we eliminate that as part of this project. I discussed these two items with Wayne this afternoon, and his advice for us was to keep our editing to what we were charged with doing the de-genderification, and that is a separate project that we could initiate a program to modernize the language, edit it, and prune it. And at that time, we would have more success in doing that pruning when the articles were looked at in their entirety. We felt, at times, we were reading the whole charter, but no, we were reading the paragraph by paragraph that contained a gender pronoun or a specific reference to gender. And as such, we did not have the whole article or chapter or section in front of us for our review. Therefore, Wayne suggested that these types of changes be deferred. That's one of the kind of editing in the transmittal package that would go up to rules on Monday night. We will with Harry, if you kind of concur with us, take those types of set those types of edits aside.
No, I totally concur, because the fact is you can judge language on that section, but if other sections that are near it, it's in a certain way, it's out of context. We're just cleaning up the, if you will, outdated gender references, and that's very logical observation by Wayne.
So I'm going to pick up G.
Thank you. Our colleague David York had to leave us, and we're fortunate to have Ken Fiveson join us right now. He's identified as caller number 2. Welcome, Ken. Ken, are you there?
It's muted.
Now it says caller is talking under
I'm
the
trying to
screen.
talk. Someone's got me on mute.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now,
Yes, we hear caller 2.
are there any other questions or comments on this report at this point.
Frank, I have a question.
Krista, yes, you're very lucky you haven't seen the 50 pages of text.
No, I haven't. I've seen pages 30 to page 40. My question is regarding your comment that Harry had observed other changes that may be warranted. As a taxpayer of Darien, how will that, how is Municode going to treat it if we have to go back again from a financial billing standpoint?
The cost of this effort through the support of Municode is $4,500, payable in 2 installments. The first has been paid of $3,000, which allowed them to take the time, effort, and computer support. We see that a lot of it must have been done by computer, but their effort to go through our charter and code and bring to our attention the paragraphs that had the gender references. Now we're in the middle of the 2 phases where we consider their recommendation and prepared our own corrections. Once because it has to do with some of it has to do with the charter, we have the need for a public hearing, and then 60 days after that, the RTM will vote on this program. At that point, the other $1,500 is due to Municode for them to complete the work and apply the changes to our official copy of charter and code.
I'm sorry, but just perhaps I didn't clarify. So how is that $1,500 determined if charter?
I'm in on my cell phone, but I'm on mute. I can't unmute it from my cell phone. It's not letting me unmute.
We can hear you. You are being heard.
David, I just got an email from you. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me now?
We're good. We're good.
Right.
Krista, did that answer your question?
It did, but I guess I'm trying to get back to the 1,500. So that's going to implement these proposed changes from a gender-specific component. If your committee has identified other changes, are they going to rebill us another 1,500 every time we go back to them, or how does that work? I'm just saying, from as a taxpayer, I don't want to see a Municode several times.
Yeah, a close reading of the contract, which is part of what we had out on the table in June, says that they will apply the changes as of our request to do so, and they protect themselves. They say that after that, we're back on our own again. I will say that that's not a hard lift, because a check of the legislation that we've passed in the last 15 years has had very few gender comments in it. The blight legislation that went through was a nice chunk of code. Wasn't perfect. There's a he in there, but in the main, all of our legislation has been gender neutral, and the vast majority of these 400 or 500 adjustments refer to older text dating back to at least the 70s and 60s, when the whole system of municipal government was taken away from the county government.
Okay, going back to Harry's, what he found, why wouldn't we do that now? And if we don't do it now, how much will it cost us to do it in the future?
I don't think I understand your question. I want to talk about this, but I need the guidance. What was that question again?
I'm sorry.
I would just comment that the reality is given that the Muni Code work was focused only on gender, the fact that there are other outdated or things in the code is, that's just an accident. And I mean, I do think this is just part of the deal. They said, if you implement, if we find this stuff and then you can tell us what we'll do, I think we'd be going way overboard to try and explore other things beyond that scope now, which really the material we looked at wouldn't enable us to do anyway.
Yes. Over the last 10 years, there has been a review of certain sections of the Charter Code that were pressing. The Department of Human Services was a good section to be rewritten. Town Council, the section on the town administrator. These were all sections that were put on the operating table, and Appendix B was a major effort to get that straightened out.
Okay, so if we want to go, I'm sorry, so for the $1,500 that's left, it's just for the degendering pronouns and nouns, then you would look at it again, and then they would bill us a separate fee to make these other changes that were identified.
What they did for their 3,000 and what we worked on with the 50-page report is a thorough review of the charter and the code. So we may have been working in sections that are antiquated, but nonetheless, we fixed them up. As far as going forward, we will have to do the right thing and keep an eye on draft legislation as it comes through to make sure that it's written in a modern manner and not perpetrating some of the oversights.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right. Would someone like to make a motion to forward to the Rules Committee a report that identifies changes necessary to remove references to gender in the town charter and code of ordinances, with a recommendation that a public hearing on this topic be conducted as required for changes to the charter? Would someone like to make a motion similar to that?
I will move that, Frank. This is Harry.
Do we hear of a second?
Second.
Thank you, Angel. All right, now that we have this open for discussion, do we have any discussion? All right, in that case, could we move to a vote as to whether to approve the motion as stated? Will, do you have the motion pretty well down?
You bet. I got it.
Okay, excellent. All right then, those in favor, please raise their hand or sound off.
My hand is raised, Frank. It's David.
Very good. All right, it appears to be unanimous. And as in the spirit of that, what we will do is to forward to the Rules Committee on Monday evening this report. And we'll rely on their good judgment as to what to do next. I will also send out to this committee the link to the Rules Committee meeting on Monday. So if you would like to look in on a very cordial and productive meeting at which our two topics are going to be presented, then please do. And I will send that around in an email. I will also send around Wayne Fox's comments, but they will not delay us in getting the message up to Rules. I'd also add that Krista has enabled on the town website, the TGS&A page of the website, a facility to, a cloud, if you will, where over the next months or so, we, as well as members of RTM, as well as members of the public, can access that in order to see the text of the report and the background material. So thank you, Krista, for doing that. It's going to be a very useful tool as we move forward. When we do approach the public hearing, we may ask you to put a click on the top page, because finding the TGS&A page is a little hard. You can get used to it, but when we do get it, and also I would like to ask you, Krista, when we were doing one of the other pieces of legislation, we opened up an email account, and I will do an email name. So if someone had a public comment, they could send it in, and then we collect it. I'm sorry to mention that without it occurred to mind that it would be useful to revisit that to see if we can do that for this matter.
Absolutely.
All right, fine. I should have mentioned it to you beforehand, but put you on the spot. But you got off the spot. Thank you. All right, because this is a special meeting and the agenda is restricted on special meetings for only topics, you can vote on only the topics that are there. That doesn't say that you can't discuss or have comments. Is anybody any other remarks that they would like to make before we call for adjourning? Thank you for your patience and getting a late start on this. I do appreciate it. Would someone please move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Would someone second?
Moved.
If everybody who's in favor, please leave the meeting. Thank you all. Good night.
Night.
Bye-bye.